My name is Matt Alt, and I am crazy about Japanese robots. Now, this guy's name is Guy King. In the show, he transforms into a giant dragon skull. Now, as luck would have it, this toy does too, and I'm going to transform him for you right now. First, we take off his wing, then we take off his head, and then we take off his arms, just like this. They rotate around, they pull off, and there you have it. Giant skull, samurai skull. Look at that. This guy also has a fun feature that I like a lot. Whoops. Can take these missiles out, and you can put them into his eye sockets like this. Fit him in there. Fit him in there. There we go. But that one doesn't want to go. But at any rate, they're supposed to be able to fit in there, and you press a button and they shoot out. There's that typical Jumbo Machinder missile style that we were talking about a little bit earlier, red and white. This is actually one of the most instantly recognizable things in Japanese toy collecting. If you're a Japanese toy collector and you see this, you immediately think Jumbo Machinder because they're the only types of toys that use that sort of thing. This guy's name is Pegas. He looks like a giant fire hydrant. But what he really is a base. A guy climbs in here in the show, shoots up into Pegas' chest, and then comes out of a little door on his back. So Pegas is actually like a space-age horse or a vehicle for this guy. It's almost like a giant robot phone booth for Clark Kent. The guy walks in here as a normal guy and comes out here like a superhero. You'll see him later. His name is Tekkaman. He's down the aisle a little bit. This one's one of my all-time favorites. His name is Dangard Ace. And ever since I was a kid, I always loved this design. Why? I don't know. It's all about passion. It's just what you like. And really, there's something about this that's always spoken to me. It was designed for a show called the same name, called Dangard Ace, about a pilot who has to train really hard to learn how to use this robot. Now, in the show, his head actually separates here and turns into a little spaceship, which is why you can see this little, what's supposed to be a window up here. But this is my favorite piece for another reason. I've been looking for it for years and I couldn't find it. Unfortunately, these toys are often really hard to find now because when they were sold in the 1970s, you can see they're big. Japanese houses aren't as big as American houses, especially in the big cities. And so when the kids grew up a lot of times, they would get thrown away. So the actual numbers of these toys in existence right now is really quite small. And it's very difficult to find them, even if you know what you're looking for. And this is a perfect example. It took me years to find this. Eventually, I tracked it down in Japan. I had to go all the way to Japan. I found it at a toy convention, and the person selling it took pity on me when I told him how much I wanted. I didn't have enough money to pay for it at first, but I told him my sob story of how I'd been looking for this for decades, and he finally took pity on me and he sold it to me for a discounted price. It's one of my favorite pieces in my collection. As you can see here, he's actually not in the greatest of shape. The sticker is kind of rotted a little bit here, and you can see this used to be foil, but there's almost like what's rust on here. This comes from the high humidity of wherever it was stored. But even though it's not in the greatest condition, it's still one of my favorite pieces just because I looked for it for so long to find it. This guy's name is Go Lion, but if you're American, you might know him by his other name, which is Voltron. This was from an animated series that was broadcast in America in the 1980s. And in the show, each one of his limbs detaches and turns into a robot lion that's piloted by a human. And once again, when the going gets tough, this team of 5 pilots combines their lions together into this giant robot, which in Japanese is called Go Lion. Go means 5, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 components to it. In America, it was translated and broadcast as Voltron. It was hugely popular. When I was a kid in the 80s, it was one of the biggest shows on TV. This guy's name is Raideen. Now, Raideen is really interesting, not only for being one of the first Jumbo Machiners, but also because he features an aesthetic that's really quite different from the other Jumbo Machiners in this series. Many of the Jumbos have a very Japanese sort of sensibility to them. Samurai helmet, samurai armor, that sort of thing. But this guy has an almost Egyptian look to it. It looks like he stepped out of the Egyptian desert or something like that. You can see here he's got a giant bow for a weapon, and here's a big shield. But even with that sort of ancient Egypt design sense, it's been kind of recombined with Japanese aesthetics in this to make this giant robot. This guy's name is kind of hard to pronounce. His name is Daitetsujin 17. Daitetsujin means Big Iron Man, so his name is Big Iron Man 17. Now in the show, he's basically a giant robot who responds to the commands of a little kid who's wearing a special helmet. And they're kind of a team, they fight crime together. This particular piece actually happens to be a Hong Kong reproduction of the original Japanese. The Japanese one is so hard to find that I actually had to get this Chinese version instead, but it looks just like the Japanese one. This guy's name is Great Mazinger. Now, Great Mazinger is the sequel to Mazinger Z, the very first guy we looked at. It came out a few years later, and as you can see in comparison to Mazinger, he's got these much sharper angles. His chest piece is much larger. His head has these points on it. And one of the really interesting thing about this is, when I was a little kid, when this is actually imported into the United States, but they didn't bother translating the Japanese on the chest. They left it there. And when I was a kid, about 5 or 6 years old, and I got this toy as a present, I saw this and I was really fascinated by it. I was like, what is this writing? What is this? Is this some kind of robot language? Is this some kind of alien language? I didn't know. I asked around and I finally learned that it was Japanese. And that really started me on this path that I haven't gotten off to this very day, of going to Japan and being interested in Japanese culture. So my interest in the entire country of Japan started from toys, really. And toys just like this one. I was just so fascinated with the way they looked that I felt like I had to go and see where they came from. And now many years later, it's exactly what I do. I live in Japan and I run a company that translates animation and comic books and things like that. Back to the robots. This guy's name is Capsule Robo G. Unlike all of the other robots here, he's not from a TV show or a comic book or anything like that. He's a totally original design. And he's really original, because look at this. His head is almost like, which comes off by the way, it's almost Aztec or South American. It's got a very different feel from the other Japanese looking robots. Now, this particular toy is designed so the head comes off and you can put a little pilot inside there, but unfortunately, I didn't bring him today, so you can't see him. This guy's name is Giant Gorg. Comes from a TV series, an animated TV series that aired in Japan in the 1980s, and very similar to some of the other robots in here. There isn't a human being inside of him, but rather he responds to the commands of a little boy, and they go off and have adventures together. Now he's got this striking all blue coloration, which you almost never see in these toys. There's very little red. Almost all of these toys have a significant amount of red in them, but this guy, just blue and these little red dots on the chest. But that really kind of unique all blue coloration is one of the things I like best about this guy. And finally, we have Tekkaman the Space Knight. Now this is the only toy in this entire lineup that does not represent a giant robot. This is supposed to be a human being wearing a high-tech suit of armor. And he comes out of the back of that other robot that we looked at back there called Pegas. Human walks into that other robot, and he comes out the top looking like this, where he goes into space and he fights, all the sorts of things in space that attack Earth, the usual. Anyway, this guy's great because for some reason, even though he's a human, he's got this button on the back of his head. See this? Which if we press, launches this weird nail-like thing right out of his forehead. Whoops. Sorry. There you go. Why this guy feels the need to shoot giant nails out of his forehead, I don't know, but I love him for it all the same. He's got this really nice, look at this. He got this spear here, this extendable spear. Dangerous guy, you wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alley. Anyway, that's it for the Jumbo Machiners. Hope you enjoyed him.